So our final presenter for this section is going to kind of round out our discussion here with a focus on a topic that I think has come up in various ways in several presentations so far today. But our presenter is Mark Cooper, who is affiliated with Boston College. And Mark will be exploring art and activism through a sculpture called Aftermath. And so I'm just going to put a picture of the sculpture on the screen, and I'm going to bring Mark to the top of folks' Zoom screens. And with that, I think we should be ready to turn it over to Mark.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. It's terrific to be here and to hear all the presentations. And if it hasn't already been said, I can imagine this happening for starters at every college and university, possible, and each place having their own kind of committees and clubs and movements to promote this idea. So I think this is a great beginning. And I want to just talk to him for a moment about using art as a way to draw attention to these issues and potentially so many, social justice issues. And we started this project. I was invited to help create an installation with a number of students and other faculty helping by an open call through video and emails and text to the entire community at Boston College, students, staff, faculty, asking them to donate clothing and explaining some of the issues around recycled clothing in terms of equity issues where they end up in poor communities all around the globe, and environmental issues. So from the very beginning, even before this sculpture existed, everyone was actually collaborating, and part of it by donating clothing and sort of understanding the situation. And to me, this is a spectacular collaborative effort in that, some of the collaborators, created a biosynthesizer, and some created a website, and some did research, and, and it just brought everybody's skills together. And I'm a strong believer in experiential learning. And so I think talking about these problems is important. But, if you can imagine this image you see, which got shown in several venues and will continue to get shown, some version of your closet gone crazy, or your shelves, and so people viscerally could think, oh my gosh, all this clothing, and where does it go, and what could happen? So, I think it's people react very strongly to art and to kind of physical manifestation of an idea. And so I'm a big advocate of it. And I think the more highly visible it is, and the more trafficked kind of place it could be seen, the more impact. And we've gotten great feedback from Boston University, not only School of Public Health, but Student Union, when it was at Boston College, when it was at the Smithsonian's, 20,000 people went through a day. And then those people tell other people. So, this is, yet another view. And I think, for part of my presentation, I'd like to just be available to answer questions any of you might have about putting this together and how one does it. I can certainly talk to you about, collaboration. I think the fact that everybody collaborates on it, it gives it sort of an unpredictability that just one person and a layering that's really fundamental and fantastic that a single individual can't do. So I'm a big advocate for getting everybody to participate and everybody having ownership. But perhaps I can stop a little early rather than go on and take questions if there are any, which is, I think, a good way for people to I don't know, think about using art as an advocacy tool. So any questions?
Thank you so much, Mark, for your wonderful presentation. I'm not sure if you touched upon it yet, but my question would be, what are some of the most common reactions or responses that you receive when people walk by or see the aftermath sculpture?
So that's a question. Thank you for the question that not only can I answer, but several of us from Boston College who were part of this could answer, because we all were with the sculpture. So there's videos and protest posters that go along with the sculpture. And there is a link, a QR code to sort of a research site that people can engage in, a blog site. But I think people are like overwhelmed by the sort of recognition of, okay, look how much clothing this is, and this is just a speck compared to the mountains that end up, at different dump sites. So I feel like the reaction I hear, and others can chime in from Boston College, is it really gets people's attention, and it makes them start to ask the questions that many of the presenters have talked about. What can they do? How can they improve? How can they recycle? What do they do with their recycled? They had no idea that it was such an environmental issue and an equity issue. So I think my experience, but I suspect everyone who was with it, is it's amazing at how much attention it got, and how it got people sort of to want to think differently about their own clothing and their own recycling, and take action.
Thank you for that question and for that response. Are there any other questions kind of building on that, or taking the conversation in another direction? If not, I have a question that I can offer.
Sure.
Okay, cool. I will chime in with my question then. So kind of building off of that question, I am interested in kind of just hearing your thoughts about evaluation, and like specifically like how do we if people are using these tools of art advocacy to try to raise awareness, to try to change behaviors, what are some of the ways that like you have found effective in your work on this project, but also in other projects, in terms of like capturing the responses that you just discussed, and like what sorts of data, stories, like that sort of thing are important to stakeholders like funders and like different people, to try to explain to them how important and useful these methods are?
Well, thank you. That's a great question, kind of a perfect question. I have learned, especially, in large scale collaborative projects where I might work with an entire school, or at one point I did a project in New York with young people from all 5 boroughs. I did a similar one in scale in Washington, DC, and the states around. And I think some kind of evaluation process for the collaborators, where maybe they name the sculpture or the mural, or they talk about the experience. I think that not only is feedback for future projects and for funders, it makes the experience transferable for the participants. So that, and I think that's a key function of evaluation. So not only that act of reflecting allows them to sort of carry it forward into other aspects of their life. And I think if you don't have that aspect of evaluation and reflection, then the experience is kind of lost. So any small thing, like visitors at the Smithsonian, this is an image at the Boston University School of Public Health. If everybody does just one small little bit of reflection in terms of an evaluation, I think it solidifies the experience for them.
Thank you. That was a really thorough and helpful response. So we have like a few more minutes where we could maybe take one more question. Does anyone from the audience have a question they want to pose to Mark?
I mean, I will point out while we're getting a question that this view of this installation, it really shows what I talk about in terms of how many participants added different things. You can see an iPad in front that's interactive. You can see the video monitor. You can see the protest posters. You know, that there's so many layers to this, and there's so much richness that people see it. They intuit that, and they can feel the energy, you know, behind, and no one person could bring all that together easily, you know. So pulling on each collaborator's strength in terms of their contribution and voice for a common cause was a really powerful way to go about it. So sorry, maybe there's more questions.
No, that was a very important reflection. I do have a question I can end things on, but I want to give anyone else who has a question an opportunity first. Oh, it looks like Kate has a question.
Yeah, I don't have another question, but I can just like going off of what you were just saying. I remember when we were setting up the sculpture when we were there that you know, from these pictures you can tell kind of the scale of it and how that has such an impact. But also when you're up close, I remember seeing the tags on all the new clothes, like the clothes that weren't even worn that are there. And I recognized a sweater that I have in my own closet. So just to kind of add on, like when you're standing up close to it too, you can really feel that like personal connection. And yeah, think about your own closet and in the context of seeing this big sculpture.
Thanks for that reflection, Kate. And I think that is definitely one of the powers of art, is its ability to really connect to people in very personal and intimate ways. So the final question I'll just pose to you, Mark, before we have to move on to our lunch break, is just so this sculpture is really large and like very, when you see it, it really occupies a lot of the room. And I think that is a big piece of the like kind of aesthetic and kind of the impact of viewing it. And I guess I was just curious about your thoughts, like in terms of amplifying projects like this, like via technology and like over social media, and like trying to expand the impact of this sculpture, but really like any of the sculptures that you've developed. Are there ways that you can reach not only the people who have a chance to view the sculpture or the art installation in person, but are there ways that you found that have been effective in terms of also engaging people who might not be able to visit the actual site, but would be interested in engaging via technology or online?
Well, you know, yet another terrific question. So I didn't go too far into, you know, collaboration. I've actually written a book on collaboration, kind of breaking down, you know, what it takes to have a successful collaborative project. You know, one of them is to have a forum that is so strong, it kind of can accept different, if it were in terms of painting, different skills of rendering, you know, from abstraction to figuration to cartooning, and the humanity of everybody's voice. Another part is just having everybody have ownership that participates, and certainly having sort of visibility in highly sort of respected places, so that people take it seriously and the participants feel that ownership of having that visibility. And then another component is, you know, the media. So if these things can be on television, in a news show, in the papers, in magazines, you know, then people can understand it and they could see examples. And if one or two of the collaborative partners is interviewed, all the partners realize it could have been them who was interviewed. So, you know, it's not any one person needs to be there, but I think that, you know, that takes it a long way. You know, so first of all, you have it in places of respect, and certainly the Smithsonian, BU, McMullen Museum, hopefully at the university in Washington and Seattle, you know, those are important venues. But then to have media pick up on it, then people other places, and the more international the media, then, you know, the more attention, you know, it gets. And a lot of art people know through magazines and media. They don't go to see the Spiral Jetty in Salt Lake, you know, or things like that. But so there's definitely ways to use this as a tool, you know, a physical manifestation of the idea through, you know, attention, media attention.
Amazing. I think that is a really powerful and important point for us to end this this section on innovation, art, and advocacy on. I think, as Mark just said, like the potential for technology to bring people into conversations that maybe they've never had access to before because of geography, because of a whole lot of different factors. Can really build connections in a way never before and never before seen. And I think heading into our next section, which will be focused on providing a little bit more of a viewpoint from the Global South, I think technology really presents a way for the Global North and Global South to the extent that those divisions are real and whatnot, which is another conversation, but there's methods of dialogue that haven't existed previously. And I think art is a really powerful language for that dialogue and collaboration. So thank you so much, Mark, for ending our section with those thoughts. And Mark did mention the book that he has written. It's called Making Art Together, how collaborative art making can transform kids, classrooms, and communities. And I do have to say that I read it this year and I ended up liking it so much that I held on to the book way too long and got a very large library fine. So if that is a positive review for the book, then I think that speaks to that it's a very engaging read.